welcome to episode 8 of the Yank and Kiwi podcast. We are your hosts, Brett.
Indeed.
Yes, we are your hosts, Brett, the handsome and charismatic one. Join with me is...
Sam, the one who normally can't stop talking, who is at least theoretically the funny one, and something full head of hair isn't going to go bald young, has better sartorial choices, something blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Aryan supremacy, although really I'm a fucking Anglo, so... I mean, actually, buddy, Aryan, because Aryan is just Indo-European descent, but the whole Hitlerian sort of Nordic supremacy thing doesn't apply to me.
How can it be Nordic if he was Teutonic?
Because the Germans are Nordic peoples.
I thought they were Teutonic.
In terms of the classification, a racial classification, that's more of a cultural one. So in terms of the classifications, there's Nordic, there's Anglo,
there's Celtic.
Those are sort of the main ones. And I think there's one other, but it's not Teutonic. And Nordic is, yeah.
Yeah, Nordic is all the Scandinavian people.
Yeah, and the Germans had some descent from that.
Yeah.
Not exclusively, but they had some.
The Celts are a separate group too, right?
I think the Celts are a subgroup of Anglos, I want to say.
Oh, that thing.
Or it might not be they're a subgroup of... No, sorry. I think there's just a lot of crossover between that group.
Yeah, because last time we checked, the Celts were their own separate people.
Yeah. My bad. It's actually not. It's just me as an Angler being a dick to the fucking Celt.
You can't see it.
Hey.
Finger.
My defense, at least I'm only jokingly being a dick to the Celts. I'm not being fucking Oliver Cromwellian fucking unironic exterminationist view.
Oh, yes, we are that kind of show, guys.
Yeah, and we haven't even hit the booze yet, which to the what's been going on and the bit of news we kind of have to talk about. Yes. This episode is booze is involved, and I am drinking Jim Beam Black. I'm not really a Beam fan. It's not bad. It's better than the normal one, but I find Beam a bit sweet. But good stuff on this.
Me, on the other hand, I have Jose Cuervo Blue Agave Gold Tequila.
Yeah, he has a mixtos tequila. This is going to end poorly. So, this is an experiment. We did like 99.9% of the streams involved alcohol. We're going to see how that works with the podcast thing.
Also,
I think in future...
Also, there was no way I could get Sam to do this particular one without alcohol.
Alcohol will be needed. Honestly, like, I am probably we're going to be disappointed at how less terrible it is than the hope is.
But yeah, let's not turn up the height too high. Let's start off.
It'll still be hopefully memorable.
Yeah, let's at least start with the week. Sam, how about you start?
Yeah, so what have I been doing since last we did? So I had watching show. I'd wrapped up Wolf's Rain. We talked about Wolf's Rain for a bit. Mm-hmm. Started rewatching Razafon because watching a cerebral, symbolism-heavy, early bone show that's a pre-apocalyptic sci-fi made me want to rewatch one of my favorite shows of all time that is also all those things. Although Razafon, actually calling Razafon pre-apocalyptic is slightly spoilery, because for the first episode or a few episodes, its trick is kind of making you think that it's a post-apocalyptic thing. And then it kind of reveals that, oh, actually, no, it's not. And kind of a Megazone 2-3 kind of thing where it's like, oh, I've been lied to my whole life.
The vibe I was getting, it was more of a dystopia.
It's that too, but you know, where he's in the classroom and they're telling them how almost all of humanity was wiped out and all of this stuff.
Yeah, well, isn't that how pretty much every dystopia starts out anyway?
I guess, arguably. But yeah, It's that's one of the many big differences between it and Ava. So it and Ava have some surface similarities and stuff like that. But one of the main big differences is in Ava, most of the population actually did die. In Razafon, the main character is lied to about most of them dying. That's a big difference. But yeah, now you started watching Razafon too, didn't you?
Yes.
So where are you up to?
Episode 3. I kind of got sidetracked. I'll get to that. But I'll get to that when I get to my stuff.
No, that's cool. I just, since we were talking about it, I thought since I mentioned it, I thought it might be a good time to just briefly what you think of it so far.
It's got my interest, and like I said, I've only been on 2 episodes, so I'm at least curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, those first couple of episodes are quite good. Particularly, I have one big piece of advice when watching the show. Well, one big piece and then a few sub facets of it. Give it all of your attention. It requires it to figure out what's going on. There's a lot of stuff that's given to you bits and pieces. And in particular, pay attention to, have Google open. And anytime they use, some weird sounding word, Google it, find out what it means, because it's ancient Nahuatl, Mayan, and these terms actually mean something, the symbolism in it. And the other thing is pay close attention to the interpersonal relationships, because there's a lot of stuff that, how do I put it without spoiling it? There's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of exchanges, and in particular, even exchanges that have already happened, that there's a lot of irony built into them that you don't pick up on until you discover things later, and particularly on rewatches. It's very rewarding for rewatches that way. But it's a show where there's so much that goes on, and the timeline and backstory to it was all fed to you bit by bit, and quite implied, and it's quite a complex thing, but it's a great show. I've been slowly working my way through Samurai Jack rewatch. I got maybe 4-5 episodes in. I had totally forgotten about the episode where he goes into space.
Oh yeah,
on the rocket. That is awesome. And also, Astro Boy reference, where he's flying with his arms out in front of him.
Yeah, there's a lot of those, and there's a lot of references in Jack.
Yeah, and there's a lot of
there's an episode where he's going through a labyrinth in a pyramid. It's basically an homage to Lupin the Third.
Nice. I need to see some Lupin the Third stuff. Shockingly enough, I've not seen any of them, and I'm the old school anime guy more so, but that's weird. But yeah, that episode has a lot of actually that episode had several Astro Boy homages. But yeah, I finished rewatching Daria. Man, I said ever since I watched Daria that it's almost certainly my second favorite cartoon behind The Simpsons. I'd actually go a bit further now and say that it's probably my second. Like, if someone had a gun to my head and made me list my top 3 shows, I don't know what number 3 would be, shows from any medium, but number 1 would be The Simpsons, and number 2 would almost certainly be Daria. I don't know what my third pick would be, but Daria is so good, and yeah, it is. You gotta get to that show sometime, and we got to talk about it. And
that would be interesting.
It's actually the 20th anniversary of that show this year.
Would be interesting. It would make an interesting talk, especially considering that wasn't. Although it's kind of interesting that you have so much appreciation for that show, and you are definitely not in that show's target audience.
No, I am not.
You're not a Gen Xer.
No, it speaks to how well written and well crafted, and just how funny and smart a show it is. The fact that I was kind of an outcast at school helps.
Yeah, I'm sure I could probably talk to some of my older friends who are Gen Xers, and they could probably. I bet you there's a whole lot to that show they would obviously relate to, because. Yeah,
I think people are going to interact with it in different ways, and I think I'm sure I would, because I do relate to it in a way, you know, because my experience in high school, there are analogs, but it will be in a completely different way than how a Gen Xer would, or how, say, maybe a modern teenager might.
Millennial.
Because, yeah,
No,
but you know what I mean.
No, not millennial, Gen Zer.
Yeah. Because we're... Actually, I think we are...
I'm a millennial, definitely. I'm definitely a millennial. You're probably on the tail end.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere in between. I think I'm like just at the end of millennial. But yeah, really it's how a millennial or a Gen Z or whatever would react to it. Because the thing is, shows that are very much part of a cultural zeitgeist, you can still appreciate and love them just as great shows.
Yeah.
Without that cultural sort of element to it. It's to me, there's a lot of 90s sort of subculture stuff, you know, and that whole cynical, grungy kind of thing, which this fits into that sort of
that's a Gen X, that's a Gen Xer attitude right there. Cynicism and nihilism.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that sort of stuff that I feel like I don't get, but maybe I would have if I were born in that time. So maybe I would have been a Nirvana fan if I were 14, 15, 16, 17 in the early 90s. You know what I mean? Yeah. Right? It's entirely possible. But I can't relate to that because it's just not how I am. It's just not the world I live in. Daria is not one of those things. It's very accessible because it's a bit more universal in some ways. Because it's just... At its core, it's just a great, smart sitcom with great characters, and it's funny and it's quite poignant at times, and it's, the last episode, so the way it is there's 5 seasons, and there's 2 TV movies, one in between seasons... one at the end of season 4 and one at the end of season 5. So, is it fall yet? Which is the first one, which is summer break.
Hey, you ever
and is it college yet? Which is them wrapping up at college. And the ending of season 5, the last episode of that, is an episode called Boxing Daria. And I'm not going to get into it, but it's one of those cases where the show... It wraps up the show from a thematic and a plot and a character perspective. But the movie is great nonetheless, and that last movie, and it helps from plot one. But Boxing Daria is almost certainly my favorite, at least Western, episode from any cartoon that isn't The Simpsons. I love it so much. Actually,
Daria, have you seen the College Humor reunion trailer?
Yes, that fake trailer.
That stars Aubrey
Plaza
not good. As Daria.
It's not a good. It gets some really basic things about the show wrong, and I don't. There's this big argument as to what Daria would be like at that point in her life, anyway, and that basically she's just like she was in high school.
I would say
in that trailer.
I would say this though. I mean,
and it's not what she's going to be like.
I would say this though. I mean, like Aubrey Plaza. If there was going to be a live action Daria, I'd picture her.
Maybe. Adult maybe. Yeah. Certainly too old to do.
Obviously, she can't be Daria as a teen. I'm just saying, they at least casted her right.
Maybe. I don't know. It's one of those things where the whole idea of live action Daria is kind of an anathema. To me at least. But yeah, so I finished rewatching that. I'm still working my way through another rewatch of Veronica Mars. The Daria one kind of took precedence. That Raz one kind of taken precedence. I powered through like the last 3 seasons of Daria in like the last 4 seasons of Daria in like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks, whilst watching Wolf's Rain and Razafon and all these other things.
God damn.
So I think it's just I got through season 4. Is it fall yet? Season 5, and is it college yet? In about
Also,
2 and a bit
also,
days.
back on what you said about how Daria is able to speak to people that are outside of Gen X, even though it was a show that was made for Gen Xers.
Yeah. And that's and at the risk of sounding pretentious, and like one of those people, and by those people I mean people who talk about how who treat cartoons too seriously, and by that I don't mean cartoons should never be taken seriously, but you know what I mean. That's what great art does. Yeah. That's what great art does, and a great show can certainly be considered art, particularly if it has enough depth to it, which Daria does.
Yeah,
and great art does that.
But where I was going to go with this was,
but yeah,
on the off chance people listening do not know this, Daria originally began life as a spinoff from Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, and Beavis and Butthead is...
It's Gen X.
I don't like
Generation
Beavis.
X concentrate. Like,
I hate Beavis and Butthead. And the reason I hate it is the reason so many people love it. And it is unabashedly retarded. It is crude, and not in a smart way. It's retarded. It's just...
It's vulgar. It's crass.
It's pure unadulterated. It is the pure unadulterated id of horny teen Gen Xers in show form.
Yeah, that's a show only a Gen Xer can appreciate. Because I
think so, and even then, Gen Xers will fight to the death over whether it's a good show or not.
Yeah,
there are two types of Gen Xers.
Yeah, like my friend Jason.
There are those who love it, and there are those who would rather die than watch it.
Like my friend Jason. This is not the Jason from Storytime Reviews. Different guy. He was a guy I worked with. He is a huge fan of Beavis and Butthead. Like I said, this is Beavis where Daria doesn't record. I mean, Daria was a show made for Gen Xers primarily, but it's not so steeped in being Gen X that you can't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Whereas Beavis and Butthead almost requires you to be a Gen Xer to appreciate it.
Beavis and Butthead is... So, Daria is universal in how it channels Gen X. Beavis and Butthead is esoteric. Beavis and Butthead is a very esoterically Gen X thing. If that makes any sense.
Basically what it means is, unless you are a Gen Xer, you are not going to get it.
Yeah. And even plenty of Gen Xers didn't. So you have to be a type of Gen Xer. What else? I haven't been watching anything else. I think I've been listening to the Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812 cast recording a lot. I think I mentioned this last.
You did.
But I've still been listening to it, and I want to know what fucking deal with the devil Dave Malloy made to A, be able to turn 70 pages of War and Peace into a musical and have it not suck. B, to have it be on Broadway and make a shit ton of money. C, to have the score be that complex and that catchy. And yeah, music that complex. Okay, so for those who are not musicians, the score in the show is incredibly complex and challenging, and there's a lot going on, and it's the level of complexity where it's actually really hard to make music that complex and have it not sound like gratuitous wankery. But it is musical and it is catchy, and there are songs that I have part of Letters playing in my head right now. In 19th century Russia, we write letters. That is stuck in my head. But yeah, so I've been listening to that. That is awesomeness. And yeah. I will blame Daria for this, but been listening to some Foo Fighters as well, which I hadn't listened to them in a while, but the reason I'm blaming Daria for this is there's a bit of Everlong used in one part of the show. At least if you watch the restored versions, which don't exist for the two movies, because for the TV it's just finding other sources for the audio and putting them in. So in the TV show, the original version or the restored version, most of the background music is bits of other songs, bits of songs that were popular at the time, and each episode has a different ending song, and it's a popular song at the time. And it adds to the mood so much. But no one has restored the two movies yet because one of them, I don't think there's even a VHS rip or anything of it, the original form of it. And B, both of them would require visual edits as well.
Really?
So, yeah. But yes, again, if you get Daria, I will hook you up with the restoration project so you can watch the show in its original form. It works so much better for the mood.
Hey.
But yeah.
Okay, so that's everything for Sam.
That's me. How about you?
Okay, like I said, I started watching Razafon. Don't need to repeat myself there. Found another anime. It's called Alice and Zoroku. Yeah, so, hey, Sam, I can't really hear ya.
Oh, fuck. My mic went off.
Yeah.
I moved out of the way so I could have a mouthful of food. And if I move it up too far, it mutes it.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw something you posted on Facebook about this. So tell us about the show, because I've never heard of it.
Okay, so the basic premise is there's this girl named Sana who escapes from a research facility.
Right.
And she's got this weird ability called Dreams of Alice, which other people have. They have this. Basically, they have this ability to manifest something. There's this one lady who can manifest arms from her dead husband. A pair of twins who can, one manifests shame, the other manifests a bow, an arrow. Sana's got the ability to basically make anything she can think of.
Wow.
But she escapes from the research facility to go to the outside world, and she runs into this old man named Zoroku Kashimura.
Okay. Also, let's just be thankful this is not a show about a guy, because if this were a show about a guy, it would be a hentai if a guy had that kind of power and it were being realistic.
Yeah.
Can create anything. I'm going to create sexy women who want to bang me.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is a hentai like that, actually, probably.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I'll ask Nigel or Stacy.
Remind me to tell you about the body swapping hentai manga I read once that was hilariously crazy.
I'll have to remember that. Okay, but yes.
Actually, I'll do it after you talk about the show, because it's you'll get a laugh out of it. But,
okay, but
yeah.
So she meets Zoroku, and he kind of begrudgingly agrees to help her out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, let's see what else happens in there. I'm trying to remember everything. And then of course he finds out why this research facility is after her.
Right.
And there's a bit of the Japanese government is involved in it too, and and of course his granddaughter kind of falls in love with Sana, and by that I do not mean not what you think. It means she grows like super attached to her.
Yeah. So it's got nothing at all to do with London.
With what?
Because I've got Alice in Wonderland. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, because I've gotten to a point where
if have anything to do with Alice in Wonderland, that would probably mean by at most it just uses terms from Alice in Wonderland and nothing else.
Right.
That's about
because
it.
any time Alice as a name is used in anime, it's an Alice in Wonderland reference.
Like she created.
Like,
There was this whole space
remember
underneath
Lane?
There was this whole space under the facility she created that they call Wonderland. It's just it's something she made out of her head. Like it's just all this collection of stuff she created.
Do you remember Did you know that there's a? Let me just double check this so that I don't get this wrong. Did you know that Clamp did a really weird take on Alice in Wonderland once?
I'm not surprised they did.
Miyuki-chan in Wonderland. It was a comedy Yuri.
Interesting.
And it focused on the eponymous protagonist, a Japanese high school girl who finds herself pulled into various worlds populated by females who consider her appealing. I read it once and it was weird.
Just for context, people, Clamp is an all-female team.
Yeah, and they're quite equal opportunity because there is a lot of Yuri and there is a lot of and there's a lot of Shonen Ai yaoi stuff in there stuff as well. I think actually I would count Miyuki-chan in Wonderland probably more as Shoujo Ai than Yuri. I could be wrong. It wasn't smutty or anything, but it was weird.
But yeah, I mean, like Alice in Zoroku, I'm just gonna say it really made me feel good. It was a very sweet anime. In fact, I would say it basically did the same thing that Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid did, but did it 10 times better.
Without the weird rapiness.
Yes.
And without the fucking turning Quetzalcoatl into a moe girl.
And an attempted child molester to boot.
Yeah, that's why I said rapiness. God damn it, Japan! Stop!
I thought you were thinking of when Kana tried to get it on with Saikawa.
Oh, you did mention that too. Yes.
Yeah. Keep in mind, those two are supposed to be elementary schoolers.
Oh, Japan.
Someone tell me how that's okay.
Oh, Japan. Answer, it's not.
Let me put it this way: when you look at the mangaka's previous work, it sort of puts things in perspective.
I can imagine. So I was trying to find the info on this hentai I once read that I mentioned. And Googling body swapping sibling body swapping hentai did not help.
That's way too vague, man. There's gonna be
it came up with the tag of body switching on some hentai manga site, and there were 6 pages of different manga. But what I remember was they somehow discovered they can swap bodies. And so they decide to find out what it's like to have sex in the opposite body. And it ends up with the sister eventually doing the body swap thing so she can rape her brother in her body, using his body to rape her brother in his body. This is why I read it, because it was hilariously insane.
Jesus, and I thought, wow, and I thought I couldn't do anything crazier than 7 cents.
Dude, I will always be able to top anything that you have come across for craziness in terms of anime, especially and manga, especially if we're counting some of the crazy hentai I've read when I've been on that part of the internet looking for weirdness. I find weird, crazy kinks hilarious. Unless they're,
really gross.
Yeah. Like, I'm too grossed out by scat fetishes to find that funny.
Let's
Except all Jim Norton's jokes about trannies shitting on his chest. Those never get old.
Yeah. I've also another thing I've been watching is I've just been binge watching Father Ted like a motherfucker.
Yeah, you're obsessed with that show, man.
I can't. What can I say? This show it speaks so well to me.
It is a very good show. I say this, and I don't say this as a knock on it. And I don't say this to mean I don't like it, because obviously I do. But it and Fawlty Towers were the two kind of super popular Brit sitcoms that I didn't love as much as other people. And by that I mean I merely quite liked them. I like Fawlty Towers. I like Father Ted. I like them quite a bit. But most fans seem to kind of obsessively love them. And honestly, that's a weirder feeling than... It's a harder position to be in than not liking something that people obsessively love. Because it's really awkward going, yeah, I like this. It's good. I don't like it as much as you, but it's good. People, for whatever reason, often also seem to be less responsive to that stance than the this thing you love sucks stance. Because I think they're confused by it, a lot of people. I'm not saying you're like that. I'm just saying there are plenty of people who get confused by the...
I know what you mean.
It's fine. It's good. I like it. And I do like Father Ted. It is a hilarious show, but it's not an all-time favorite comedy for me.
Yeah. This show just...
But yeah.
But yeah, this show just speaks so much to me because I'm Irish. It's just... This show is...
Yeah, it's a very Irish show.
This show is uber Irish.
It is. I hear you're a racist now.
What's the church's official line? I'd like to be devoting myself to the old racism full time, but the farm takes up most of the day, and at nights I'd like to have a cup of tea.
And that one chick who starts ranting about the Polish.
No, it's the Greeks.
Oh no, you're right, the Greeks. What am I talking about? The Polish. Christ. Yeah. My bad.
They invented gayness, which is technically true.
Well, they I don't know that they invented anything, but they certainly popularized pederasty.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet that Milo's a big fan of ancient Greece.
Well, he is part Greek.
Well, that explains the pro-pederasty stance then.
I mean, come on, it's in his name, Yiannopoulos. That's a Greek name.
I know. Oh man, I'm gonna be really... This is a joke, people. Remember, this is a joke. Part Greek, part Jew, practicing Roman Catholic. No wonder he likes pederasty. And before anyone gets butthurt about the part Jew thing, goes, what's that got to do with anything? Have you seen the traditional way the rabbi does circumcision?
Oh boy, I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's where the joke is coming from, people. Untwist your panties, it was a joke.
Yeah.
Also, fuck circumcision. Or at least forced infant circumcision.
Yeah.
If you want to get circumcised as an adult, cool.
Or as a
teen, but don't forcibly circumcise your infant.
Yeah.
Don't. But yeah, are we done? Are you done with what you've been watching, or if you've been up to anything particularly of note?
Yes, just a little thing before we get started into the meat of the video.
So
meat of the episode, I mean.
An apt thing for what we're talking about today. The news, we've lost another great legend in the music world.
Before we get to that.
Oh, we'll get to that in a moment. Okay.
Just a bit of an announcement. Tuesday the 30th, I will be performing at the Tacoma Comedy Club for New Talent Tuesday. Doors open at 7 p.m. If you guys are in the Tacoma area, be there. Hand
someone a cell phone and make them periscope it.
I I got. Might be able to do that. Although I'll just be bringing my camera and have my buddy Eric film it.
Oh, sweet. So it'll be up there. Cool. Anyways, as I was saying, so Greg Allman died. I'm not normally one to really be all that bothered. Even when artists I like die, I generally don't, at least not on a particularly personal level. This one actually kind of hits home a bit. Not to the degree of, say, Leonard Cohen, where that one really hit me, but more than, Bowie or Prince, and I like Bowie and I like Prince, but Greg Allman have been a huge fan of the Allman Brothers band for years and years and years. A big part of why I play guitar. Them.
Guitarists of all time, I'm fair to say.
Well, Greg Allman was the singer and organ player. You keep confusing him with Dwayne Allman.
Sorry.
Dickie, the other guitarist from that lineup, was actually the one who's on my all-time favorites list. But Greg, as a singer and a songwriter, just great, and an organist, great organist. That band had so many moving parts: two drums, bass, two guitars, both playing lead. His organ playing held everything together. Great singer, great songwriter, really incredibly talented guy. And it's a real shame that he died. And yeah, everyone stick on. People should stick on at Fillmore East or Eat a Peach or whatever your preferred Allman Brothers band album is, and give it a listen, because it's a real bummer. But yeah, it's really my kind of statement on that, I guess.
Yes, we wanted to,
and
we felt it was appropriate that we give Greg Allman a brief eulogy for this episode.
Yeah, because man, influence he had. And
describing the way the Allman Brothers was set up, it almost sounds like these guys inadvertently invented prog rock.
Nah, it was more. There's a funny story to the two drummers thing. Dwayne wanted two drummers. Dwayne Allman, Greg's brother, who died very young, tragically, guitarist.
Yeah, he was the one that died in the motorcycle accident. Yeah. I remember my dad telling me about that.
And he wanted two drummers because James Brown's band had two drummers. But it was very much a sort of, blues and blues rock, but approached with the mind of jazz improvisers, with country and all sorts thrown in.
Okay, how does this not sound like it's inadvertently inventing prog rock?
Listen to the live version of Whipping Post from at Fillmore East, and if that sounds anything like prog rock in style to you, then I don't know. It's nothing like it.
Well, it's just like, I've heard people credit Led Zeppelin with inadvertently inventing heavy metal.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin. There's a direct link there in the sound. You know who really also inadvertently created Led Zeppelin?
What?
Now, I don't know if you've listened to much of Cream beyond, White Room and Sunshine of Your Love and those songs, but listen to Cream and then listen to Black Sabbath's first album. Mm-hmm. Black Sabbath's first album, musically, Early Sabbath is basically Cream but slowed down, detuned with a shit ton of distortion and with lyrics, Aussie lyrics. It sounds a lot like that kind of heavy British blues rock that Cream were doing. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of believe it. If you listen to the first Black Sabbath album
that first Black Sabbath album,
and you're going in with the mindset of listening to the band that invented heavy metal, you're kind of going to be saying, okay, this isn't bad, but this doesn't sound like heavy metal.
No, it does. It sounds like it does, but it doesn't at the same time. Again, it is. What it sounds like is the midpoint between heavy blues rock and metal. NIB. Wait, far. Oh man, I'm forgetting the main riff. I remember part of the riff,
But yeah, I think it's kind of goes without
but
saying
it's
that it was,
very bluesy riff.
it kind of goes without saying that Paranoid was where they finally nailed the sound down.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I love that first Sabbath album so much. But in terms of nailing down the sound of what would become heavy metal, yeah, that's where they did it. Heavy metal, really, the three bands that from that time period that really sort of laid out the blueprint for what would become heavy metal, or for where it would come from, to my mind, are Cream, Led Zeppelin, and Deep Purple.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm willing to give you Led Zeppelin and especially Deep Purple.
Yeah, Deep Purple again. I mean, with Cream, it's like particularly the live stuff where you've got Clapton wailing on guitar and more distortion. You've got Ginger Baker smashing the shit out of the drums and all that crap. But Deep Purple, like anyone who can listen to, I mean, fucking Fireball, the song Fireball from the album Fireball, which I forget when that came out, but late 60s, very early 70s, is even, hey, there's the double kick drum thing going on.
That was actually, I believe, the double. No, wait, I'm thinking of a double bass drum.
Same thing, bro.
Okay, then in that case, that's an invention of Motorhead. Filthy Animal Taylor is the guy who started that.
No, that's been around that as a technique was used for quite a long time. But but again, I'm talking 68, 69, 70. Fireball, Deep Purple, just as kind of an early popular example of using that technique. And what's funny is Ian Pace is a very jazzy drummer. But yeah, Deep Purple again, you know, the screams. If you could, I defy anyone to listen to, especially in rock, the Deep Purple album, and then to go to, let's say, the Sad Wings of Destiny, you know, early Judas Priest, and not hear a direct lineage.
I could believe that.
Because it's there. It's there in some style.
I would certainly believe that.
And it's good, and I'm not criticizing. I love it. But yeah. So on to the topic at the hand, I guess.
Yes. Today
it's a music episode, people.
we are going through Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest Guitarists.
Yeah. And this is there will be ripping on it. There will be all sorts of things, but it will not just be ripping on it. To be fair,
we'll at least try to give it a fair shake.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, to be fair, any 100 greatest list, there are so many great guitarists who have been recorded over the years that you're going to miss people out. And there are going to be...
Although supposedly this one has some authority behind it because here are the voters, just a few of them.
Let's not go through... Okay, so here are the voters who stand out to me as being people who you listen to. Richie Blackmore, Jerry Cantrell, Gary Clark Jr., Billy Corgan, Dave Davies from the Kinks, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. A point, actually, let me just take a moment. I was never a Blink-182 fan, or 182, whatever it is, but I've started to actually dig them. Go figure, eh? Yeah. Kirk Hammett, you got Warren Haynes from the Allmans, you got
Mike McCready from Pearl Jam.
Robbie Krieger from The Doors.
Krieger.
Alex Lifeson. Yeah. Can be. I've heard it both ways. Anyway, Alex Lifeson from Rush. Mick Mars from Motley Crue. Mick Mars, best part of Motley Crue. Dave Mustaine. Yeah. Brian May. Dave Mustaine. Vernon Reid from Living Colour. Joe Perry. Rich Robinson. Carlos motherfucking Santana. Mick Taylor. I'm going to go with that's the Mick Taylor from the Rolling Stones, not the Mick Taylor formerly from Guitarist magazine. Either way, they're both great guitarists. Derek Trucks, Eddie Van Halen, Joe Walsh.
Stephen Stills.
This isn't even half the people on there, I think.
These are people who you would consider to know what they're talking about.
And they're For the most part, yeah, and they're from all sorts of. I mean, this list has Jerry Cantrell, Billy Corgan, Tom DeLonge, Richie Blackmore, and Carlos Santana all contributed to this list, or voted to this list. So that is all right. Number 100, Lindsey Buckingham
from Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac. I'm not the world's biggest fan of the pop era. Like, I like early Fleetwood Mac when they were a blues rock band with Peter Green more. But Lindsey Buckingham, he's a pretty damn good player and a fairly inventive player. You hear him play something and you know it's him, you know? And to me, even if I'm not a fan of someone, and I'm not a fan, I don't dislike him, but whether you're a fan of someone or not, if you can hear them playing and you know it's them, immediately, they deserve to be on a list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thurston Moore. I've never listened to Sonic Youth, so I can't comment there.
Yeah, well, I've listened to some of Sonic Youth. Like, Sonic Youth is part of the reason why Nirvana exists.
Yes.
They pretty much,
So-
they kind of invented what would be the proto-grunge sound. Husker Du.
Oh, man. I drank too much of that in one go. I've not drunk alcohol in a while.
Oh, boy. Yeah, grunge and shoegaze would not exist without Sonic Youth, for better and for worse.
Man, what's that one Husker Du album? Or Husker Du, however it's pronounced. That one, like, concept album that is really well regarded, because that album is awesome, and I can't remember its name right now.
I can't remember its name either.
Can I?
98. Alex.
Here's... I have to quibble at that. Like, surely Alex Lifeson should be in the top half.
Okay, now
Fucking, I'm not even the world's biggest fan of Rush, but Jesus Christ, that dude's guitar playing is insane.
well, he always seems to get overshadowed by Neil Peart anyway.
And Geddy Lee. He gets overshadowed by the bass player and the drummer. Only band where the bass player and the drummer are more famous.
Next
Steve
up,
Jones from the Sex Pistols.
I would never. I mean, the Sex Pistols are important historically, but let's just be honest.
I wouldn't.
These guys
Again,
These guys did not know what they were doing. They've
Dude,
talked about that in interviews. There are interviews where Johnny Rotten said we were just a bunch of guys who got together in a studio. We had no idea what the fuck we were doing.
dude, I dig the Sex Pistols, and it's because it's all attitude. It's fun if you're in the mood for it. I would not pose. I just wouldn't. Again, it's like when you sometimes see, and maybe he's on this list, but when you sometimes see fucking Kurt Cobain on Great Guitarist list, and you go, no. Again, no. Again, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen. I like Springsteen.
Hate his politics.
Yeah, but his music's great, and he's a pretty solid guitarist. But again, I'm not sure. It's one where I wouldn't necessarily. I can guarantee you there are people who I could think of who aren't going to be on this list who deserve it more than him. Roger McGuinn. Now, who's he? Oh,
just so you guys know, we are at 95.
Yeah.
He's
So,
from,
dude from the Birds.
yeah.
I never really listened to the Birds, so I can't comment, and I'm not going to comment on people I haven't.
94,
Peter Buck.
94. Peter Buck. REM.
Yeah. I mean, REM pretty good. Actually, REM very, very good band overall. He's not someone I'd think of, but he's, as a stylist, sure, he's a great stylist, and you recognize him when you hear him. I guess by that logic, I can't really argue with that too much.
93. Paul Simon.
I like Paul Simon a lot, and he's actually a pretty good guitarist, but he's not top guitarist for me, like anywhere near it. But he's a really good musician. He's someone who he is kind of like, he's a great overall musician as a whole, but I wouldn't necessarily think of him as a great guitarist specifically.
All right. 92, Dimebag Darrell from Pantera.
Pantera are a band I have to be in the mood to listen to. I think Dimebag Darrell had a really ugly guitar tone, but he made it work for him. Pantera, great band. Again, have to be in the mood to listen to it, but I can't argue with that. Dimebag was a fucking legend.
Yeah. 91, Dave Davies.
Yep. I really can't argue with that. I mean, if anyone who's ever spent any real time listening to
The Kinks,
yeah, sorry. I don't know that you can necessarily argue with that. Again, he's a cool rhythm guitarist who played lots of parts. I mean, he played the solo on "You Really Got Me," which people claim was played by Jimmy Page because Jimmy Page did some sessions for another song on that album. But even Jimmy Page has gone, nah, mate, I didn't play that solo. That's a cool solo. Again, huge, influential guitarist with just a handful of those songs.
90, Tom Verlaine.
From Television. I listened to some Television. I should listen to more of them. I dig what I've heard. Can't argue with him.
Yeah,
killer guitarist, man.
In case you guys don't know, Television was one of the premier punk bands of the 70s punk scene.
I wouldn't call them punk necessarily.
Well, they came from that same scene. They played CBGBs.
Yeah. Really, their music is... You can't really classify them properly, I think. And that Marquee Moon record is amazing. Number 89, nearly said 92.
80.
Bonnie Raitt.
Now, where do we know Bonnie Raitt from?
Bonnie Raitt's famous song is I Can't Make You Love Me. I can make you love me. That song. Most of her music is actually a lot bluesier. She's a really good guitarist, particularly for slide guitar. Really good musician overall. I don't listen to him that much, but she's really good. I could not argue with that. Oh, speaking of people I could not argue with, 88, Carl Perkins. Carl Perkins is the dude who played on, basically, yeah, so Carl Perkins was the guy who did the original version of Blue Suede Shoes and a bunch of that stuff that influenced people like
Says the Beatles.
Clapton and Beatles, and incredible guitarist. From what I've heard of his, again, someone I can't necessarily argue with. I've not listened to that much.
87, James Hetfield.
Okay, I'm gonna be triggered if Kirk Hammett is higher than him.
He probably will be.
Because Kirk Hammett is a sloppy guitarist who's managed to play some great parts over the years, but isn't half so imaginative. And if you look at the footage of him back in the day writing solos, even the great ones, and doing takes on it, it took him forever to get stuff that didn't suck. Hetfield, man, that right arm is like a metronome. One of the most precise rhythm guitarists ever. Hetfield is actually, I would say, an underrated guitarist by most, because most don't think of him as being this awesome. Because who really thinks of someone, the rhythm guitarist, as being incredible, right?
Not usually. It seems like when it comes to Metallica, the two guys. In fact, the guy who's the most visible, I would say, is Lars.
Yeah, for better and for worse. But yeah, I would absolutely, man, Hetfield, fuck yes.
86, a guy named Jay Massey's?
Some band called Dinosaur Jr.
I've heard of Dinosaur
Literally
Jr.
never heard of him or them, so not going to comment. Andy Summers from The Police at 85. Yeah, sure.
Huh, I would have thought Sting would be here.
Guitarist. Sting played bass.
Really?
Yes. Sting played bass with The Police. Sting absolutely should be on any great bass playlist for sure. I can't argue with Andy Summers, what he did with that in that band, pretty damn good stuff. 84, Joe Perry from Aerosmith.
I know you don't like Aerosmith.
I don't like Aerosmith. I don't think his playing, to me, he's not an interesting player to me. My opinion.
It says, here's a quote. He had a streamlined style that reminded me of Keith Richards, said Slash.
Yeah, and a careless style is really cool. I don't know.
Joe Perry is the discount Keith Richards.
Maybe. Eddie Hazel, yep, 83. Eddie Hazel from Funkadelic.
Actually, it says, yeah, Funkadelic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, man. I mean, Maggot Brain is the only album, is the main thing of theirs I've heard, and that album and that guitar, their solo on the title track of Maggot Brain, which is the guitar instrumental thing, alone means he deserves to be on this list.
A 10-minute solo. Holy shit.
10-minute guitar instrumental. Have you never listened to Maggot Brain?
No. I normally do not listen.
You gotta fix that.
I normally do not listen to stuff like that. I like my
Maggot Brain is...
I like my music normally very straight and to the point.
No, but Maggot Brain is one of them, like, those classic rock things that every classic rock fan has heard. 82. Well, almost every, evidently. There are some exceptions. Nels Klein.
82. Where do we... From... Geraldine...
he's the guy from Wilco. Wilco, what I've heard of them, pretty damn good. And yeah, he's a good guitarist. I don't know that I'd put him on there. Oh, actually, no, maybe, because his guitar playing, I've heard some really cool solos from him. Number 81, Lou Reed. Lou Reed is another one like Paul Simon, where I think of him more as a complete package, and I have trouble thinking of him as a great guitarist or a great singer or a great whatever, so much as a great artist as a whole. So, I don't know.
More of an instrumentalist.
What do you think?
More of an instrumentalist.
More of just a whole picture. Number 80, I'm surprised not higher, Buddy Holly. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, this guy... Okay, rock as we know it would not exist without Buddy Holly.
Yes, and Buddy Holly, I don't know if you've listened to much of his stuff, but that stuff still sounds fresh, that stuff he played. It's such great stuff, and the songs in general, but yeah. Number 72, Mike Campbell.
79.
79. Lead guitarist, Tom Petty. Tom Petty's lead guitarist. Sure. Can't really argue with that, I guess. Number 78, John Fahey.
Where do we know him from?
We don't. Solo acoustic folk guy who I've never heard of.
Sounds like a guy you'd like.
Number 77, Willie Nelson. Great musician, not sure about him being a great guitarist, though, to be fair, I never really listened to him that much, or his guitar playing all that much.
76,
oh, come on.
76, Robbie Krieger.
That low? Man. Great guitarist. Great guitarist. You just have to listen to that solo and fucking Light My Fire, or the guitar parts in the end. And awesome.
75, Joni Mitchell.
I mean, I never listened to her that much, so I can't really comment. 74, Dick Dale, the king of surf guitar.
He's like, you would know, if any of you saw Pulp Fiction, you know his song.
Yeah, his version of Miserlou, which is an old Greek tune, but yeah, what I've heard of him, very good guitarist, but I've never listened to him that much.
That's the song that's the opening theme from Pulp Fiction, guys.
Oh, fuck it. Dude, 73, they put Kurt Cobain.
Well, at least it's not any higher. Look,
they put him higher than Robbie Krieger, though.
Okay, look, I will say this as a Nirvana fan, guys. Kurt Cobain could play guitar. That does not mean he was good at it.
Yeah.
And in fact, at best, he was a serial plagiarist.
No. Mediocre, boring. Oh, I'm triggered again by one of my all-time idols. Have you seen who's next?
72, John Frusciante from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
How is he not in the top 50? Christianity, I mean, what else? What can I say? Fucking god tier guitarist, incredible guitarist. I could listen to. Fuck this, man. This is the most triggering thing.
They spelled his name wrong too. It's John with just it's John spelled Jon.
You're right. Oh my god, man.
They spelled it John.
Yeah, I'm most triggered by putting some great people lower than I am by anything else so far. 71. Robert Johnston that low?
No, you are really triggered.
I am. Robert Johnson, for his influence alone, should... Have you ever listened to Robert Johnson?
I've listened to Hellhound on My Tail.
On My Trail, yeah. That song is really eerie, even to this day. His music is amazing. Robert Johnson, the stuff he did, people still struggle to figure out how he played it. The first time Keith Richards heard it, he heard Robert Johnson, he thought there were two guitarists playing.
Yeah, of course, there's also the folktale that he sold his soul to the devil to be that good.
Robert Johnson's music, his talent, his influence alone means he should be top 20. Number 70.
In fact, playing with that folktale, there's an episode of Supernatural where it actually incorporates that folktale.
I see. Ooh. Sorry, guys. Number 70, Jack White. You know what? I like all the White Stripes a lot. I like Jack White a lot. I feel like the top 20 of the bottom half of the list. So, somewhere between 70 and 51. Mm-hmm. Or 71 and 51. I feel like this is about the right place for Jack White, honestly. He's great at what he does, but, he's... I don't know.
Guys.
What do you think of Jack White?
What I've heard
You're
of the
White Stripes guy?
What I've heard of the White Stripes, I did like.
Yeah.
And I think I remember back when I worked at Goodwill. Well,
yep.
I was working with a guy who was really into music, and he said that had Jack White come out a little earlier, he'd be considered better than Hendrix.
He's more interesting than Hendrix to me. But Hendrix puts me to sleep.
Richard Thompson.
Richard Thompson from Fairport Convention, a folk band that I have heard much about but have never listened to. Beyond, I can comment on this guy because that band were actually the backing band for one of Al Stewart's albums, and his guitar playing on that album is awesome. And here we have triggering with number 68, the guy I consider to be, as a total package in terms of inventiveness, in terms of influence, in terms of technical ability, if you combine it all together, the single greatest guitarist to ever live. Not necessarily my favorite, but the guy I would deem to be the greatest guitarist who ever lived. The guy who, for a short time in the 70s, made jazz fusion cool amongst rock heads due to wailing guitar solos, John McLaughlin. Or John McLaughlin. Yes, there we go. John McLaughlin. The guy who, in his 20s, recorded with Miles Davis on Bitches Brew, which basically invented what we know of as jazz fusion. The guy then went on to create Mark Vishnu Orchestra, which managed to make rockers listen to jazz that had a violin in it. Because what that violin was doing was playing wailing unison lines with a guitar and then wailing solos on its own. A guy who fucking managed... he mixed psychedelic rock, jazz, fucking Indian. Dude fucking used microtones and Indian ragas and all sorts of... This single, in my honest opinion, I'm not playing this up either. I am genuinely triggered by not putting John McLaughlin in the top 10. John McLaughlin in the top 10. I am genuinely triggered.
And see, this is why I knew this was going to be a good episode for Sam's reactions alone.
Brett, What you need to do is you need to get the first 2 or 3. You need to at least get the Inner Mounting Flame and Birds of Fire, the first 2 Mahavishnu Orchestra records, and listen to them. If you are into classic, you'll dig it. If you like guitar-heavy classic rock, you'll like it. It's more complicated than that, and it's not rock, but I am triggered. Number 67, T-Bone Walker. One of the most influential blues guitarists of all time. A guy who B.B. King said that when he heard him, he quote, thought that Jesus himself had returned to Earth playing electric guitar. This is a guy who he's where Hendrix got the playing guitar with his teeth thing from. He wrote, if you've ever heard They Call It Stormy Monday, he wrote that. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday is just as bad. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday is just as bad. That guy. One of the great, again, this guy's influence should surely put him in the top half. One of the most influential guitarists to ever live. He influenced B.B. King, he influenced Freddie, he influenced Clapton, he influenced all these guys. I'm not quite as triggered as I am by McLaughlin, because McLaughlin, I genuinely believe no one has ever been better. But yeah. Number 66, we have Leslie West, who
says he played with the Vagrants and Mountain. Mountain was the band that had that song Mississippi Queen. You guys might remember Guitar Hero.
If you know what I mean. I've never listened to all that much Mountain, but I heard that one album that they put out that had Mississippi Queen on it, and that's a good album with some killer playing. Yep, it deserves to be on the list somewhere.
Yeah, it was a good song to play on Guitar Hero 3.
Number 65, Slash. I would put Slash lower on the list. I would put him about 80 or so. But yeah, great guitarist. Hugely influential. My reason why I would put him lower is kind of his playing after he left Guns N' Roses got very samey and rutty. Same old sort of licks, if that makes sense to me. But again, his playing on those classic Guns N' Roses records, I mean, November Rain, Estranged, fucking Coma,
Sweet Child of Mine, Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah, Welcome to the Jungle. You name it. Fucking Mr. Brownstone. Again, dude deserves to be on a list like that. Number 64, Dwayne Eddy. I have not listened to anywhere near enough of his. Sort of a country rock and roll kind of guy, and what I've heard of him was awesome. Number 63, Johnny Winter, one of the great blues rock guitarists. Hell yes, deserves to be on the list.
Number 62, Robert Fripp from King Crimson.
Hell yeah, motherfucker. Anyone who would argue with that should probably have their ears examined. What do you reckon?
Well, King Crimson basically... King Crimson certainly did not invent prog rock, but they were very innovative for that genre.
Yeah.
They've had such an impact on it. So many people are still quoting them.
So cool. What is cooler than that? Breakdown bit in 21st century schizoid man.
Yep.
That is one of the coolest riffs ever. And next we have one of my top 3 guitarists of all time at number 61, Dickie Betts. From the Allman Brothers Band. If you've ever heard Ramblin' Man, he wrote that song. That's him singing that. He wrote that. That's him playing guitar in it. You've ever watched Top Gear? You know Jessica? He wrote that. That's him. He's less famous than Dwayne because Dwayne died young. Dwayne, and by this I'm not trying to suggest that Dwayne doesn't deserve his fame. I'm just saying Dickie deserves as much fame and love. As Dwayne once said, I'm the famous guitar player, but Dickie is the good one. He overstated it a little. They were both great. Dickie Betts wrote In Memory of Elizabeth Reed, a jazzy... If anyone has not heard the live from Fillmore East version of that, listen to it. He plays the first solo. He plays all that intro stuff. This guitar here, my Tokai LS80 Gibson Les Paul copy, I named this Liz Reed, in memory of Elizabeth Reed, because Dickie Betts is such an influence on me. Deserves to be on the list. I would put him higher, but I should be more mad at this than the McLaughlin one. Because I love Dickie Betts so much, but it's kind of a thing of I would put him from top 20. I don't know where I'd put him, because if we're talking just how much I love him, if we're talking if we're way influenced and everything, then he'd be lower than someone like Dwayne or some of the other people, because not as influential. But if this were weighted by influence, McLaughlin would be way higher. Number 60, Ron Asherton. Yes, fuck yes.
Yeah,
and now Ron Asherton.
Yeah, this is a punk guitarist that deserves it more than Steve Jones, because, well,
yes,
the Stooges could actually play, unlike the Pistols.
Man, the Stooges fucking epicness. So Ron Asherton played bass on some of their stuff, but he also played lead guitar. If you listen to, I love the Stooges. His guitar solo is fucking epicness, man.
59, Robbie Robertson.
Yeah, and he from the band. Amazing guitarist.
No complaints then?
No.
Then number 58, Peter Green.
Peter Green. My complaint is that he's not higher. Peter Green was the guy who replaced Eric Clapton in John Mayall's Blues Breakers. He then started Fleetwood Mac, back when they were a blues rock band. He's one of the greatest guitarists of all time. The stuff that he put in. He unfortunately took one too many bad acid trip that then triggered schizophrenia in him, and his playing has never been the same, and nor has his life. It's a real tragedy. But in terms of what he did early on, he wrote Black Magic Woman, which Carlos Santana later covered, and the original is even better.
Right.
If you've ever heard Oh Well, which was a Fleetwood Mac song from his era that later Fleetwood Mac covered and got quite famous as well, which has one of the greatest riffs of all time. It's basically the riff of that. One of the greatest. He was even more than David Gilmour. I would say he's the kind of guitarist who could hit one note, and Peter Green had the ability to just with one note express so much anguish. And just incredible. Look up any live version of Jumpin' at Shadows for that.
Okay. Moving on to 57, Rory Gallagher.
Rory Gallagher, the greatest. It's Gallagher because he's Irish, not Irish American. Or was the greatest Irish rock musician probably to ever live, and certainly the greatest guitarist. If anyone wants to hear a case of blues rock soloing that will melt your face off, stick on the version of Tattooed Lady from the Rory Gallagher's Irish Tour live album. But that last album is one of those solos that I literally cannot wrap my head around, and I think that if I could ever be good enough to play that, then I would quit guitar, because I would never need to be any better than that. One of the all-time greatest guitarists of all time. Bob Dylan was a huge fan of his. The Edge was a huge fan of his. Gary Moore was a huge fan of his. Most British guitarists, and so Irish, Scot, whatever, guitarists who came afterwards were influenced by him. One of the all-time greatest guitarists who ever lived. And again, if you love classic rock and blues rock, you owe it to yourself to get a copy of the Irish Tour. 78, 79, I forget which it is, but Roy Gallagher Irish Tour live album, and listen to it loud. Again, he would be top 20 for me, for my personal list. 56, Albert Collins. Albert Collins, one of the great blues guitarists, one of the guys who Hendrix him and Buddy Guy are two of the biggest influences on Hendrix. Excellent guitarist. I've never listened to him enough, but incredibly great
Oh man,
guitarist.
55 is gonna trigger you so much.
I'll just finish with one thing for Albert Collins. Albert Collins was known as the ice pick because his guitar just cut through that much.
But yeah.
55, John Lennon. I'm gonna leave it at that, eh?
No rant? No ranting on...
My hatred of John Lennon is him as a songwriter and a person, or him largely as a songwriter. He worked on some good stuff with the Beatles. In the context of the Beatles as a rhythm guitarist, he was fine, but he was nothing special. Unlike George Harrison, who is something special, and I know is on this list. Number 54, Joe Walsh, Eagle solo. Yeah, can't really argue with him being on here, can you?
My dad actually had an interesting thing to say about the differences between Glenn Frey and Joe Walsh.
Glenn Frey, to me, is the cooler guitarist.
Yeah, well, the way my dad put it is, Glenn Frey was more of a technician, where Joe Walsh was more talent.
Kind of, Frey had more skill. I wouldn't say technician, but Frey more skill. Walsh, you could tell he was kind of winging it, and in a good way.
Yeah, like,
I mean this in a good way.
Like he was going on pure intuition.
Yeah, the funny thing with him is people often assume that the coolest parts of Hotel California solo are played by him. Actually, the coolest parts are played by Frey. And also, I hope Frey is on this list. Something tells... No, sorry, Frey, Oh man, I did a dumb... No, Frey, no, I'm with you, sorry. Frey, total douchebag, by the way. But incredible guitarist. In my opinion, the greatest solo ever laid down in the Eagles track was laid down by Frey. And that's the guitar solo in One of These Nights. Yeah. That's a hell of a solo.
Still though, Joe Walsh's solo stuff is pretty good, like Life's Been Good, In the City.
I need to listen to more of it. He did Rocky Mountain Way, right? That's a damn good song. Yeah. That's a famous one. Number 53, Otis Rush, another blues guy who some of you might not have known, but you will have heard people who were influenced by him. He's one of the greatest who ever played, one of my all-time favorites. Influenced everyone. Buddy, I mean, he was around the same time as Buddy Guy. He influenced Freddie King. He influenced Clapton. He influenced so many guys. I Can't Quit You Baby, the Led Zeppelin song, is a cover of his. John Mayall and Blues Breakers on that famous Beano album that they did with Clapton, so-called, because Clapton, they're all sitting on a bench and Clapton has a Beano comic open. They did a cover of All Your Love, I Miss Lovin'. All Your Love, I Miss Lovin'.
Yeah, Jay Giles' band also covered one of his songs, too.
I don't know who Jay Giles' band are, I'll be honest. But yeah, hugely influential guitarist, incredible musician, the kind of guy, again, people should check out. Number 52, Clarence White. I have never heard of him. Oh, okay, a sessions guy who played on stuff like Birds, and they don't say who they're... Damn, they say sessions guy, and they only mention one album he played on, so I can't comment on him. Just due to the way they've done that. 51, Johnny Marr from the Smiths. Fuck yeah, man. That dude. What is going to trigger me is they're going to put the Edge higher. And the Edge did what Johnny Marr did, but not as well. Right? Johnny Marr was the master of layering guitars in the way. The things he did were ridiculous to get layers and layers of sounds. On this Charming Man, there was a guitar track that was him, and he laid his Telecaster down and dropped knives on the pickups and recorded that. Dropped knives on the strings, or the pickups, one of those, and recorded that, and that's in there.
Oh, here's something.
Here we go, he mentions it there. Here we go.
I was going to say, but something that I found real interesting is, here's a quote from Noel Gallagher from Oasis.
Yeah.
I've been in the studio with him, and there's nothing he cannot do at all. The man's a fucking wizard.
He is. In terms of creativity, there are a few people more creative. And again, also, the sounds he managed to make, like that slide sound on How Soon Is Now. So cool. Number 50, Another guy who would be in my top 20 all time, Richie Blackmore.
The guy who
Now that we're in the top,
the guy who invented hard rock, heavy metal, and to an extent
now,
prog rock.
now that we're in the top 50, I can't bitch as much about placement, but again, surely he should be in the top 25. One of the greatest guitarists of all time. The influence he had is remarkable. His tone is incredible. The people he's worked with, yes, nowadays he's gone off and made weird-ass medieval music that isn't necessarily particularly good, in my opinion, but that does not take away from what he did.
Although there's
One of the
been
greatest
a
musicians.
rumor floating around that he's possibly been thinking about getting back into rock.
I believe the reunion, or I believe a new Rainbow lineup is confirmed, but I'm not sure what's happening with that. Or they're going to do some gigs in Europe. But again, I mean, yeah, I am more of a fan of his with Deep Purple than I am. Well, I mean, I like Rainbow, but I like Deep Purple more as a whole. So, anyways,
To hear Graham Bonner put it, though, he's betting more money on Deep Purple doing a reunion.
it's possible. And Graham Bonnet, my favorite, controversially, my favorite Rainbow record is the one with Graham Bonnet, Down to Earth.
Number 49,
like
Muddy
Rainbow.
Waters.
Hell yeah! Now, you are not really a blues guy, and that you don't listen to much blues.
I know,
But I take it even you know who Muddy Waters was. Muddy Waters was one of the early blues guys who went electric. And there's a story of a guy, some blues guy talks about how he saw him. And it was the first time he'd seen someone play an electric guitar. I think it might have been B.B. King. And he said it was so loud that, like, he said it was so loud that it was, like, deafeningly loud in the toilets. Muddy Waters, I have the Chess Records collection of a bunch of his early stuff that was super influential. One of the greatest, again, one of the great guys. He influenced Hendrix so much, and Buddy Guy was in his band, and man, Manish Boy, great song. Rolling Stone, that's where the Rolling Stones band name comes from, I believe. Catfish Blues is another classic of his. Cream did a cover of Rollin' and Tumblin'. And of course, oh no, it's Manish Boy I think I'm thinking of. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. That whole rhythm in the song starts with him.
All right. Number 48.
I need to load more.
Well, number 48 is Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead.
I haven't listened to Radiohead in so long that I can't even remember. So I'm going to give this one a miss, okay?
47 is Stephen Stills.
47, Stephen Stills.
Yep.
Now again, I always meant to listen to Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and never got around to it, so I can't comment on him.
46, Jerry
Do you have any
Garcia.
comment? Look at that. Do you have any comment on Stephen Stills?
Not really, just because I've never really listened to any of their stuff. I've listened to some of
Jerry
Nick's,
Garcia.
but yeah, number 46 is
That's
Jerry
Jerry
Garcia from the
Garcia.
Grateful Dead.
Now, I am someone who has been starting to get really into the Grateful Dead because John Mayer, his other gig is with the Dead and Company, which is surviving members of the Grateful Dead playing Grateful Dead stuff. Jerry Garcia was one of the greatest musicians of all time. His heavy improvisation did mean that when he was on, his playing was some of the best you'd ever hear. When he was off, it was terrible. Hard drugs didn't help.
So he was a very inconsistent guitarist.
Yes. But what makes him legendary is the creativity he had. He was a banjo player first, and the way he approached guitar very much came from that. He played like almost no one has. I don't think anyone has ever played quite like him. I will link you after this. I will link you something that will like kind of give you that will just something with awesome Jerry Garcia playing. Jerry Garcia, I can't argue the influence when he was on means he should be on there.
45, Link Ray. I don't know him.
Some rock and roll guy from the 50s, it seems like. I've never heard of him. But Pete Townsend was inspired to play by him, so he must have been good. Number 44, Mark Knopfler. Again, Mark Knopfler would probably be in the top 20, 25 of my personal favourites list. Obviously from Dire Straits and from the solo stuff. I like his solo stuff more personally, but again, what can really be said about Mark Knopfler as a guitarist that hasn't been said? Good sense of rhythm and tone and melodicism, the way he melds so much together, particularly in his solo work, where he has influences from classical, from Celtic, from country, from all sorts. I mean, he's one of the greatest, and as a rhythm guitarist as well.
I've heard him described as having a sort of intangible presence on the guitar.
He does. He's someone who you can never quite explain what makes him so special. But anyone who listens to him hears it. Like, you only have to listen to live versions of Songs of Swing. We added in that really long solo, and it's got that one lick repeated over and over and over again, and it's not boring.
So in other words, if all you know from Dire Straits is Money for Nothing, you are seriously missing out.
I mean, that's great, nonetheless, for guitar, but you are, for sure. Number 43, another guy who, one of the most influential guitarists to ever live, Hubert Sumlin. Now, you won't know that name, but you'll probably know the name of the guy who was most famously the sideman for, Howlin' Wolf.
Yep.
Howlin' Wolf wrote songs like Smokestack Lightning, which he played on, and Killin' Floor, which, if you've never heard Killin' Floor, Sumlin's guitar part or riff for that is insanely awesome. Sumlin was one of the great guitarists just to ever play. You really can't. Man, it's hard to top. Number 42,
Mike Bloomfield.
Mike Bloomfield. Incredible. He played on Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited. He played with Paul Butterfield Blues Band on their self-titled album and East West, which are awesome albums. And Paul Butterfield Blues Band, so knowing a little of what you know, I'm sure you know of the John Mayall and the Blues Breakers record with Clapton on. That became one of those ridiculously influential albums. This was similarly influential at the time for British guitarists. So the people who were influenced by one were influenced by the other. So incredibly influential, genius guitarist.
41, Mick Ronson. Play with David Bowie.
I really can't argue with that. That guy's riffs and everything are fucking ridiculous, man.
Yeah, they seem to draw a lot of attention to the Ziggy Stardust era of Bowie. Which...
Yeah, but he's one of those guys who, the style of him, hell yeah, man. By the way, I feel like we've been recording for ages. How long have we been recording?
Almost an hour and 30 minutes.
And we're just over halfway through. Number 40.
Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine.
And Audio Slave. I could never quite decide how I feel about Tom Morello. He's a great riffer, but some of his stuff gets a bit grating and a bit over the top. I agree. But to me, his shit can be a bit annoying sometimes, so I don't think I'd put him on just for that. But when utilized well, he's a great guitarist. 39, Steve Cropper. Okay. Yeah, so he was in Booker T and the MG's Stack's House record house band. It was Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, all this sort of stuff. So I'm sure a great guitarist. Number 38, The Edge. As I said before, did something similar to Johnny Marr, but not as good. I would put him very low on the 100 list if I would have put him on at all. But hey. Number 37, Mick Taylor from the Rolling Stones. Now, I would have to put him higher just for that sheer melodicism and fluidity. have you ever heard their song, the Stones, that's from late Mick Taylor era, Time Waits for No One, I think it is.
I don't know.
Because it's playing on that is some of the most gorgeous playing ever played by a rock guitarist.
Still, though, it seems like Mick is pretty much doomed to be overshadowed by Keith, though.
Yes, because Keith is the cool one. But Mick Taylor is a god of guitar, and his tone is incredible, and I could not say he would be in top 20, 25 for me.
36.
Number 36.
Randy Rhoads.
Randy Rhoads. I feel like you probably have more to say about him. Randy Rhoads, great guitarist. I respect him a lot.
Yeah, Randy Rhoads, for the 5 of you who don't know this, Randy Rhoads was the first guy to play with Ozzy when he went solo. Unfortunately,
What a guy.
Randy died in a plane crash, and he got replaced with guys like Jakey Lee, and for a brief period, George Lynch from Dawkins, and finally Zakk Wylde.
Yeah. So basically, not finally Zakk Wylde. Zakk Wylde then got replaced by Gus G, I think. But yeah, basically he got replaced by a string of incredible guitarists. I'm going to be honest, in terms of Ozzy's solo work, my favorite is probably the stuff with Jakey Lee for the songs as much as anything. But goddamn was Randy Rhoads a great guitarist. Anyone who has not heard Goodbye to Romance by Ozzy Osbourne
Or
needs to
Crazy
listen
Train.
to it. No, the reason Crazy Train everyone will have heard, but the reason I'm saying Goodbye to Romance is I think that is Rhodes's, because Rhodes wanted to be a classical and jazz musician. And Goodbye to Romance, I think, is Rhodes' masterpiece. You hear that he's using all sorts of classical chords and classical techniques, and the solo is just stunningly beautiful. I love that song.
35, John Lee Hooker.
35, John Lee Hooker. Again, another classic blues guy who played cool licks, had a lot of style, and was super influential. If you've heard, and I'm sure you will have,
That sounds like the theme from Mission Impossible.
No, ZZ Top.
Oh, yeah.
Way downtown, down Mexico way. I'm blanking on the name, but that
LaGrange,
is
I think it's LaGrange.
LaGrange. That's his boogie. That is boogie chillin'. That's that rhythm. It's that sort of thing by John Lee Hooker. John Lee Hooker also, if any of you have seen Skyfall, when the bad guys in the helicopter and that song is playing, that is, I believe, the Animals cover of John Lee Hooker's song Boom Boom. It's a great song. But yeah, another person who I would say hugely influential.
34,
Number
Curtis
34,
Mayfield.
Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield. And I've never listened to as much of him as I should have, but if you've ever heard, and I'm sure you have, People Get Ready. People get ready. There's a train a-coming. Don't need no baggage. You just thank the Lord. You know that song?
Can't place
Okay,
it.
well, it's very famous, man. But it's the kind of thing that was very influential on Hendrix. His sort of stuff. But yeah, that was the thing he did with the impressions. Anyways.
33, Prince.
Number 33, Prince. No argument here. Fuck it, it's Prince. Incredible guitarist. When Doves Cry, the guitar solo from that is mind-bogglingly good and complicated. Purple Rain is such an incredible feel-based solo. And I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man, I think it's called. If anyone has not ever heard that, the guitar playing on that is absurdly good.
You know, here's something I've kind of asked, sort of half serious and half jokingly to friends. Are all of Prince's songs about sex, or just the famous ones?
I don't think When Doves Cry is about sex.
Probably not, but just
Now, not all of his songs.
It seems like his
And
really
Purple
popular.
Rain isn't.
It just seems like his really
Um,
popular ones are about sex.
Purple Rain's super popular, not about sex. They're not all about sex, but Prince exuded sex. So it felt like every song was about sex. Number 32, Billy Gibbons.
From ZZ Top.
I mean, it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue. If anyone who has heard, I defy anyone who has heard Brown Sugar from ZZ Top's self-titled album to argue that Billy Gibbons is not one of the greatest guitarists ever.
No way, Brown Sugar is this a cover of the Rolling Stones tune?
Oh, totally different song. Very good song as well.
Huh.
But yes, number 31, Ry Cooder. Ry Cooder is sort of not listened to anywhere near as much of his stuff as I should, but what he's kind of, I guess, most well known for is he did all the score, other than the guitar duel, which was done by Steve Vai, for the movie Crossroads. All the other music in that is done by him. Number 30, Elmore James, very influential slide guitarist, who, great player. Sky is Crying was his, which Steve Ray Vaughan covered. And Elmore James was the that was his lick. Which everyone has played that. Number 29, Scotty Moore.
Guitars for Elvis.
The guy who played. Yeah. Can't really argue. Again, a great guitarist.
Yeah. Number 28, Johnny Ramone.
No, I like the Ramones, but I'm not sure if I would put him lower on the list, but sure. In terms of writing great riffs and memorable parts, yeah, he counts as great in that sense.
27, Bo Diddley.
Diddley. I listen to as much of him as I should, but he's a very influential guy.
26, Brian May from Queen.
I'm not a big Queen fan, but Brian May is a killer guitarist. Can't argue. Number 25, Tony Iommi. My favorite, I joke that Tony Iommi is my favorite Aussie guitarist. Because I like him better than any other guitarist Aussie has played with. Tony Iommi, the riffing, the awesomeness. Fun fact about Tony Iommi, much of his sound comes from the fact that in a metalworking incident, he cut the tips of his fingers off. So he made metal bits to put on the tips so he could play, and then he had to tune lower to bend. And so that's where those low tunings and shit comes from.
24, Angus,
is awesome.
24, Angus Young from AC/DC.
Angus Young, I wouldn't really necessarily put on the list. Angus Young is a fine guitarist, but in terms of Chuck Berry / Keith Richards licks, people who play variations on that, there are others who do it better. I like AC/DC, Bon Scott era AC/DC, but it's kind of like greater than the sum of its parts thing largely. Although Malcolm Young is one of the greatest rhythm guitarists ever.
Right. 23, Buddy Guy.
I cannot argue Buddy Guy is the guy Hendrix wanted to be. Buddy Guy is one of the most awesome guitarists to ever lived. One of the most awesome musicians to ever lived.
All right.
There was a video of John Mayer in the early 03, 04, shortly after Heavier Things came out, doing like Austin City Limits. And he does this amazing, I linked you this, I believe. He did once. He does this amazing version of Come Back to Bed.
I know what he's talking about.
And I'm already going, my God, this is incredible by the time he finishes the first solo. Then he launched into the outro solo. I'm like, my God, my God, my God. And then he introduced Buddy Guy, who walks on stage and within a bar or two just obliterates him. And he's not playing anything fancy, but it's just straight to the soul. I don't mean this like as a dig on Mayer. Mayer is like, I like Mayer as a musician. Mayer is another of my top 3 guitarists. It's Mayer and Dickie Betts, and another who's not actually going to come up. on this list, alas. But yeah, Buddy Guy is one of those people who it cannot be understated how incredible he is. Clapton, hugely influenced by him. Jimmy Page, hugely influenced by him. Everyone.
Right. Number 22, Frank Zappa.
I could never get into Zappa's music. Zappa's music seemed a bit weird for the sake of weirdness to me,
Yeah, still
instead of being interesting.
Still though, no Zappa, no Steve Vai.
Yeah, and I like Vi. But again, what he did clearly took skill, and it works for a lot of people. So I'm not really going to argue that an incredibly skilled guitarist shouldn't be on a great guitarist list just because I'm not a fan of what he did.
Right. 21, Chet Atkins.
A legendary country guitarist who, again, I've never listened to as much as I should because there is so much of him to listen to, but he is impossible to argue with.
20, Carlos
There's
Santana.
an album he and Martin Knopfler did that's awesome. Carlos Santana, oh man, Carlos Santana. Carlos Santana was one of the greats. Carlos Santana did some incredible stuff. Carlos Santana went kind of weird with jazz fusion and put out some incredible stuff. Carlos Santana did an incredible album with John McLaughlin. And then Carlos Santana did the whole getting a bunch of different singers on, and it kind of, what the hell, dude. His playing these days is kind of boring and gratuitous. Although Smooth, I'll give him this. Smooth is a good song. Smooth has great guitar parts, but kind of that's the last time he was interesting to me. But that said, you really can't argue with the influence of that earlier stuff and the greatness of him back in the day. He absolutely is one of the all-time greats, regardless of what I think of him these days, of his work these days.
All right, then.
James Burton, number 19.
James Burton.
Played with Ricky Nelson. Well, never listened to him, so I'm sure he's a great guitarist, but I've not listened to his stuff. Number 18, Les Paul, legendary jazz guitarist who helped design the Gibson Les Paul. Again, there is so much to listen to for him, but what I've heard is incredible and one of the greats. I absolutely cannot argue with him.
17, Neil Young.
Neil Young is the peak of this guy's rough around the edges. He's kind of out of tune. He's not technically incredible, but boy, oh boy, has he got feel and is his stuff stylish and cool. And fuck, man, who gives a shit? Neil Young is one of the coolest guitarists to ever live, and thus one of the greatest.
All right, 16, Derek Trucks.
Why are you saying none of your opinions? What do you think of Neil Young here?
Let me. Well, for one, I can't comment on this stuff as well as you can. Almost half. More than half these guys I haven't listened to. But okay. Neil Young, I have listened to some of him, and let me put it this way. If you want to know just how good Neil Young is, just listen to the soundtrack he composed for the Jim Jarmusch movie, Dead Man.
That is awesome.
He completely improvised that on the fly.
It's amazing. Here's a question for you. What's your favorite Neil Young song?
Keep on Rockin' in the Free World.
That's a damn good one. Mine is Thrasher, which is an acoustic song of his. Yes, he wrote an acoustic song called Thrasher. Well, Thrasher. In reference to the farming equipment. Derek Trucks, he was in the Allman Brothers band for ages. He is in the Tedeschi Trucks band. He is an incredible guitarist, great musician. And here we get to one of my top 5 all-time favorite guitarists, Freddie motherfucking King, Eric Clapton, at number 15. Eric Clapton probably borrowed more from Freddie King than any other guitarist. One of Clapton's, and even to the point where two of Clapton's biggest signature songs, The Hideaway and Have You Ever Loved a Woman, both of which are covers of Freddie King numbers. Freddie King, all the British blues guys, Jeff Beck, Peter Green, Mick Taylor, Jimmy Page, all hugely influenced by him. Incredible musician. Can't argue with it on any level. Number 14, David Gilmour. I'm a person who has to be in the mood to listen to Pink Floyd, but I could listen to Gilmour's solos forever. So I can't argue.
Yeah, I mean, I do like I do have a few Pink Floyd songs, and when I have listened to them, I do genuinely enjoy. Like, I would say "Comfortably Numb" is got to be my favorite Pink Floyd solo.
That, to me, the first solo from Comfortably Numb is my favorite because it's just such a beautiful restrained melody. Out of the two Comfortably Numb solos, my favorite solo of his for studio solos, the solo from Time.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I remember listening to that in my pop culture class back in high school when we got to the 70s.
It's such a great song. Um, Number 13, Albert King, another one of the all-time greats. Great blues guy, influenced everyone. Clapton, Duane Allman, Jimi Hendrix, etc., etc., etc. Born under a bad sign. That's him. That's a famous song of his. One of the all-time greats. Number 12, Stevie Ray Vaughan, who
You are not going to agree with.
I never liked Stevie Ray Vaughan. His tone to me was always quite harsh, very sharp. His playing was always kind of sloppy, and there wasn't a fluidity. There wasn't this sort of emotion. I don't get him. I don't get it. Okay. And I'm not going to shit all over him and say I think he was a terrible guitarist because so many greats like him. So he must have done it. I think it's just something I just don't get, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Number 11, George Harrison. Yes. Yes times a million. Oh, yes. Number 10, Pete Townsend. Pete Townsend.
I fucking love Pete Townsend.
A great guitarist for sure. I mean, yeah. Again, we're getting into a very subject. Number 9, Duane Allman. The great influential guitarist for sure. I mean, Layla, that's him on slide guitar on Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. What do you do when you get lonely? Such a great guitarist. Again, I'm more of a Dickie Betts fan, but Duane, in terms of his influence, you can't argue with it.
8, you were definitely gonna be fucking triggered by.
Van Halen, I knew it. Again, he's a guy who I listened to him. Eruption, people got Eruption was amazing to me. It sounds like unmusical wankery. I never got him. I find him sloppy. I find his guitar tones very harsh and ear piercing. I find his playing, again, sloppy and boring and dull. But he must have done something. I don't get it. I don't think he's a particularly good guitarist.
Number 7.
Number 7, Chuck Berry.
Go, Johnny, go, go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go, go. Johnny Big Goo.
You cannot argue with that. When I did my musical performance course that I did, we did different genres and we had to perform in them. And one of the songs we did was Carol. And the guitar riff to that is a million times harder than it sounds. He was one of the greats. His influence cannot be overstated. Incredible.
Yeah, I've heard.
Number 6.
I've heard from Graham Bonnet that the thing with Chuck Berry is the melodies all sound the same, but the words are always different.
Yes, and also one of the greatest storytellers. Like the lyrics that he told, he was the great lyricist. Now, number 6, B.B. King. My least favorite of the 3 Kings, mostly because later on he got a little too, I don't know, he'd get played so often and for so long. His early stuff is incredible, and again, he's one of the greats. Cannot argue with. Number 5, Jeff Beck. Again, incredible guitarist. Can't argue with it.
Number 4, Keith Richards.
An incredible guitarist. A particularly incredible rhythm guitarist. Yeah, man.
And the guy that always
awesome.
And the guy that always overshadows Mick Taylor.
Jimmy Page wrote a lot of great riffs, a lot of great rhythm stuff, but his solos can get a bit boring and gratuitous for me, especially live. But personal opinion, there's something that I miss about him, but again, he's had so much influence that I don't know how much I can argue with it, you know?
Number 2, Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton. Who wrote this? He Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen says Eric Clapton is the only guitarist who influenced him.
Huh. Really?
Eric Clapton, yes, one of the great guitarists. I wouldn't put him quite as high again, personally, but again.
And of course,
great guitarist.
We all know which number one is.
Jimi Hendrix, a guy who I already says bores me. I find his music too loose. I find it meandering. I don't get it, generally. His cover of All Along the Watchtower is pretty good, though. I don't like it as much as the original, but it's pretty good. And he did some stuff that was good. I like The Wind Cries Mary. I like Little Wing, but generally there's just something about him that I don't get it. But I love many people who are influenced by him.
Yeah, and, well, living in his home state, he is inseparable from the culture of Washington.
I would imagine. Much like Kurt Cobain would be, I would imagine.
Also true. But yeah, that was Rolling Stone's 100 top 100 greatest guitarists. Sam, what would your overall opinion of that list be?
Generally, it's a pretty predictable, boring list. It's the names you kind of expect to see on there for the most part, and a few curveballs. The ordering is my biggest issue with it. Again, putting John McLaughlin that low, stuff like that. That John McLaughlin thing might be the most riled up I've ever been on the podcast.
Yeah, probably.
But
at least
unless we count, I'm sure I got more riled up at some point in the 3.5 hour epic recording session we did with Deontay for the first take on The Simpsons.
Probably somewhere. I don't remember though.
I might have. I don't know, but yeah. That is such a blur of awesomeness. That will live forever in our minds, and no one will ever be able to hear it.
Yeah. I think the thing though is, given what Rolling Stone is, it's supposed to be the music magazine, so they kind of have to go with broad appeal.
Considering how Rolling Stone go, it's what you expect. The earlier one had some more interesting picks. I forget the details, but there were some more interesting picks, and they happened earlier on. I seem to recall Angus Young being in the bottom half of the earlier list.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go through the earlier list as well. Make this a 5 hour. No, I could.
Yeah, we don't have that much time on our hands, and nobody does. I was going to listen to a 5-hour podcast.
Some people would if you split it into like 3 episodes.
Possibly. But
a 1 episode thing, no.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think just because of the way Rolling Stone is, it's just like, you kind of, how mad can you really get at this? These guys...
Yeah, basically.
These guys have to go for the lowest common denominator, basically.
Yeah. Precisely what you expect from them. A few sort of piece bits here and there and all that sort of thing. I'm going to do this. They also have the 100 greatest singers of all time. I'm not going through the whole thing, but just out of curiosity, I'm going to go through the top 10.
All right.
Right? Their number 100 was Mary J. Blige. Very good singer, actually. Whatever you think of the music.
Mary J. Blige. Name rings a bell, but I can't place it.
Right, you would.
Like, I feel I know her.
Come on,
I
let's
just
get to
can't
number 10.
remember where I know her from.
Yeah, you would recognize her. Okay, number 10, James Brown.
Not surprised. James Brown is a very good singer.
I'd argue with. Number 9, Stevie Wonder. Again, as with James Brown, predictable. Not a safe choice, but hard to argue with.
Yeah.
Right, Otis Redding. Again, predictable, safe choice, hard to argue with. Number 7, Bob Dylan.
Really? Half the time you couldn't understand what Bob Dylan was saying.
He's easy to understand, man. They've got him here because of the influence he had, and he influenced all sorts of people without,
Oh wait, it's when he's
You better
speaking. You
convey
can't.
Bruce
Wait,
Springsteen.
I got it wrong.
Comics.
It's when Bob Dylan speaks. You can't understand him.
Number 6, safe bet, hard to argue with, but would definitely be in any top singers list for sure. Marvin Gaye.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it out. However, that's
I don't even.
John Lennon at number 5. No.
Paul McCartney, maybe.
But put Paul McCartney lower. Let me find Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney literally going through this. Paul McCartney, number 11. And they put John Lennon at number 5.
Holy shit.
They put Robert Plant at number 15. I'm not a big Robert Plant fan, but you've got to put him higher than Lennon. Before Sam Cooke, again, safe and predictable, but hard to argue with. Number 3, Elvis Presley. You get the idea. Number 2, Ray Charles. And number 1, Aretha Franklin.
Really? I thought number 1 would be Freddie Mercury.
He was on there, but he was top 20, but not. Rating. Not a big fan of it. Number 19 for Bob Marley Robertson. Let's just. 17, Tina Turner. 16, Mick Jagger. 15, Robert Plant. 14, Al Green. 11, Roy Orbison. 12, Little Richard. 11, Paul McCartney. 10, James. Yeah, it's safe. It's predictable choices. Even more so on their singers list than the guitarist list is.
Yeah. Okay, actually, here's the better question. Why would, if you're looking for the definitive musical opinion, why would you go to Rolling Stone?
A lot of people who look at lists like this are looking for guitarists they should check out, but maybe haven't heard of. Mm-hmm. And so they look at multiple lists. I did this when I was young. I looked at who my favorites were influenced by and listened to them, and so on and so forth. But I also looked at a bunch of lists and aggregated and went, who sounds interesting, and went from that. So I imagine plenty of people are doing that. I would hope that they're not just going with Rolling Stone, though.
Probably.
Rolling Stone is basically a joke. I mean, does anyone listening not realize this? Because if you don't, then I'm sorry, but Rolling Stone magazine is...
Would you say it's safe to say that Rolling Stone is the BuzzFeed of music?
It's at least cancerous and it's slightly less leftist, but yeah, it's leftist and it plays it safe these days. It's just... I don't know, man. I mean... Let's look at some stuff on Rolling Stone. Let's go with some albums that I know we both know, and we have opinions on, and we went through recently. So you know what that means. I'm going to see what Rolling Stone gave as ratings to each of John Mayer's albums.
Oh.
Because these albums we both know what we think of. We've both listened to them recently.
Yes. We have.
I seem to recall they gave Paradise Valley a 3.5 out of 5. So, you know.
And guys, remember, the people who contribute to Rolling Stone, they're supposed to be professional musicians.
Yeah. So they gave... Oh, this is going to get a little triggering. They gave Room for Squares a 4 out of 5. All right. I'd probably lean more towards 3.5 out of 5. Maybe. Heavier Things, 4 out of 5. Come on, Heavier Things has got to be 4.5 or 5, right? Mm-hmm. Actually. Room for Squares the same. Well, they're different critics, probably, but yes, they are. They gave Continuum a 4 stars. So according to them, according to them, Continuum and Heavier Things are equally as good as Room for Squares.
Fucking really?
Yeah. And then we get Battle Studies. Let's see what studies as I search that. Gave it a 3.
Yeah.
They gave Battle Studies a lower rating than Room for Squares. Okay.
Well, you have been quoted as saying that Battle Studies is John Mayer's weakest album.
No, I said Room for Squares was.
I see.
I said Battle Studies is often considered his weakest.
Oh,
It's not mine. They gave Born and Raised a 4. Again, none of these are terrible ratings, but it's kind of like they have this habit of really underrating really great stuff and kind of overrating okay.
like they just play it way too safe.
Yeah, and they gave Paradise Valley a 3.5. Come on, that's at least a 4.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we both are rare in that we both agreed that was his our second favorite album of his. Let's see what they gave The Search for Everything. I feel like they kind of panned it. Oh, I haven't reviewed The Search for Everything.
Really?
Did I tell you that The Search for Everything got panned a lot?
Maybe I in the
Yeah. It got panned by a lot of people.
In the episode we recorded.
Yeah. By a lot of people who hate it, who have already clearly made up their mind hate it. Okay. How long are we in? Because
2 hours.
okay. Shall we just for a bit of fun rattle off some other albums and see what great albums and see what Rolling Stone gave them, and some terrible ones. You know what? Let's start with the terrible one, eh?
Yeah.
Let's see what they gave Megan Trainor's full LP, title. Let's see what they gave that.
That should be
They
interesting.
gave that a 3 out of 5.
Really? Talk about being kind.
Here's the deal with that album. Here's the deal with her. She has a decent voice. She has some talent. She has 3 songs, or 3 types of songs, or had them on that album. Really, they were mostly 2 types. And then there was that song she did as a duet with John Legend, which was the best song of the album, because John Legend was on it, and John Legend has an amazing voice. It was a very bland, boring album. 3 suggest it's good. I'd give it a 2.5.
So, in other words, Meghan Trainor is like Lady Gaga in that she's talented, but she's talented enough to make good music, but shallow enough to make
Dull music.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. Lady Gaga. No, she is talented. I just don't like her voice. But anyway, what are some other things we should... Let's think. Stuff that either really sucks or is really good, but we feel like they won't like enough. God.
Look up Nevermind.
Sure. It'll be a perfect score because you just can't not give it a perfect score. Back in 1991, they gave it a 4 out of 5.
Really? Now what do they give it?
They haven't re-reviewed it.
Really?
Let's see, by contrast, what they gave 10 by Pearl Jam. I'll find a Rolling Stones review of it.
Really?
I'm sure they did review it, but it's not coming up. It's on their 100 best albums of the decade. So what would you say the most influential Alice in Chains album is? The one that everyone kind of thinks of.
Dirt.
Yeah, it is. No review. Oh, yeah, no review for that one seems to show up.
Look up Facelift.
They gave their self-titled album 4.
Not a bad album, but it's nowhere near as good as Dirt.
It's not one for Facelift either. Let's think. Let's see. Okay, question.
Mm-hmm.
We can agree, and I'm not a big Nirvana fan, but I will agree that their Unplugged album is their best album. I actually don't mind that album.
I would too.
would you agree with me that the best, at least of the rock unplugged albums, I guess some would argue that the Clapton unplugged is the best. I don't think so. Would you agree with me that Alice in Chains did the best unplugged album? Because I think they did.
I still have yet to listen to the Alice in Chains Unplugged.
Really? Okay, I think it's easily their best album. And the best unplugged album. I will say this. There are some Nirvana songs here and there I don't mind. There's even one on Nevermind. I don't just like. Okay, I actually don't mind Lithium. And decent part because the rhythm section of that, the bass part and drums part, and that is awesome. Like, that is a really good song in that sense. Dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know what could be fun to do next week?
Listening?
So I went through a short phase in my teens where I was into Nirvana, and then I kind of realized that a good chunk of that was me kind of forcing myself to like them, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I have not actively gone through and listened to their albums in years.
So we should do an episode on Nirvana then.
Go through the Nirvana albums for next week and see what we think. Or maybe more to the point, if my opinion on them is any different than mine, isn't it?
Yeah, me too, because, and maybe I don't know if it was so much me forcing myself to or just or just more at that point in my life, I was just kind of in the right headspace for it, so maybe
Yeah, I think for me it was a mix of both. And what is the song? Well, actually, looking at the track list for fucking Nevermind, Something in the Way is a pretty good song as well. And Polly's not bad either.
So yeah,
Fuck.
Okay, so yeah, we know what we're doing next week. We're doing a Nirvana episode.
I have a horrible sneaking suspicion that I'm gonna go. I kind of like Nirvana, and half of my hatred for them is like the image I had come to perceive of them, and half of it is the hype. But we'll see.
We'll find out.
So that's going to be next week. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. So yeah, be here next week when we go through Nirvana's discography.
Yeah. Bye. I'm actually scared shitless about what's going to happen.